Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Well, I did want to make sure that, so listen, yesterday I had people vote on what type of stream they wanted. And I got completely different reactions. I got completely different reactions on the tweet that my illustrious volunteers who are running the actively unwoke account on Twitter, because God knows I'm not. I got a completely different response on Twitter than I did from my locals vote. On Twitter, they wanted a socialist anti-racist training, and on locals, they wanted a live investigation. I split the difference yesterday, and I watched a socialist education-related training, and we got to learn a thing or two from that. And because that socialist education-related training was based in Chicago, I thought, hey, man, this would be a great opportunity to get the best of both worlds. And we did the presentation yesterday. Today, we are going to do a live investigation of the Chicago public schools. So, one of the things that we learned yesterday in the legitimately socialist presentation is that there is at least one member, though, if we're honest, probably more. There is at least one member of the teachers union in Chicago that is a legitimate socialist. And I'm not just member, like an officer in the teachers union. One of the people on the board of the teachers union is a legitimate socialist. And we know that because yesterday she was one of the presenters about the Chicago public schools on a legitimately socialist YouTube channel, in which she seemed to have no issue with that. So I think we can already kind of suss out that this might be an eventful day. Bot is ready to dig around. As a reminder, guys, if you've never attended one of my live investigations of the schools before, I have no idea what I'm going to find. I am discovering the Chicago Public Schools website in the same way that all of you are, and so we need to put on our spy caps, our sleuth caps. If you ever had dreams of being like a Sherlock Holmes and investigating a mystery, okay, maybe it's not quite that exciting, but this is your chance because every single person in the chat watching today can participate in the investigation. I am one person. If it's only me digging around, we're going to find certain stuff. But if everyone is digging around, then we're going to be able to find a lot more stuff. So you are welcome to participate. And of course, Alexandra reminds everyone to mount that like button for us, which of course I really appreciate. Now, of course, this type of thing is directly related to my Schools Exposed Indiegogo crowdfunding campaign, where I want to teach 10,000 parents how to do exactly what I'm going to do on the stream today. So you might ask, Carlin, if you're going to do this on the stream today, then why would people pay you money to do this? Well, that is a great question, and let me give you the answer. There are some people who are going to sit through these streams today and be able to pick up on what I'm doing in order to find information on the school's website. And they're going to be able to go out there and find it themselves. And they're going to be excited about it. And they don't need me to break things down. And they don't need me to explain things or things like that. Those people don't need to give me money. Those people are not a good fit for the training program that I'm developing. Now, don't get me wrong. If they want to make a donation, I will appreciate it and send my thanks. But that is if you can watch the stream today and not need any additional information or not need any additional help, you are not the target audience for what I'm trying to build. I'm trying to reach the normies. I'm trying to reach the people who don't spend all their days thinking about this stuff, because the fact of the matter is, guys, there are not enough of us. This is just the reality. I did a podcast not too long ago, the Actively Unwoke podcast, which you can find at activelyunwoke.com/podcast. And I talked about how one of the biggest factors that is standing in our way from defeating the woke left is that there are not enough teachers. There are not enough people who know how to do this. When I say teacher, I don't mean teacher in a classroom. I mean people who understand the woke left. They understand their language. They understand how to interpret what's going on. They have a key, like, for those of you watching here today, you are probably a candidate to be a really good teacher, or at least on your way there, right? You kind of have a sense of what this stuff is and why it's a problem and what the language means and all of that. Most people do not. And I want to reach those people. And I want to take those people who might be really disinterested in what's going on in the schools, really disinterested in what's going on in culture. They can come from the left, the right, the center. Doesn't really matter to me. I want to take them and teach them how to find out what their kids are learning in school using publicly available information. Because the more people that we have that know how to do this, the more people we are going to have keeping an eye on the schools and keeping the schools in check. My goal is nothing less than destroying the public school system in this country. I think it is irrevocably broken. I think we cannot fix it within 3 generations. It's gone. It's done. They got too much of a head start on us. We need to come up with other alternatives. But in order to get there, I can't just wave a magic wand and defund public education. We need to bring normies around. We need to change culture. We need to teach other people how to find exactly the same information that we already have access to, so that they can come to their own conclusions about what's right and what's wrong and what's acceptable and what's not. That is what the Schools Exposed program is designed for. I have 41 more days of fundraising in my crowdfunding campaign, and it has already reached the minimum funding level, so the campaign will be funded. That's really exciting. That means that the Schools Exposed program will launch in January. What I'm doing is I'm taking all my organizational psychology knowledge about how to build online training programs, and I'm applying it to fighting back against the woke left. Might as well use it for something, right? I built training programs for some of the biggest organizations in the world. There is no reason that we can't do the same thing to train society on how to identify and fight back against this stuff. That's what I'm going to be launching in January. The fundraiser is meant to support the technology required for me to run 10,000 parents through a training program. It also supports my time in developing the training program and in implementing the training program. And once it launches, the fee for the training program, again, for people who need it. If you don't think you need it, don't pay for it. But the fee for the training program will be $99, one-time fee for a lifetime membership, available, everything available to you. That's what it's going to be once the program launches. But right now, you can actually get early access to the program, be one of the first people to be run through it for $50. There are 27 slots left for those $50 tickets. All right. Once those $50 tickets are gone, ain't never coming back. That is as lowest, I'm making up words. That is as low as the price is ever going to get. And this is just a simple factor of like, I need to pay for the technology and I need to pay for my time essentially to be able to administer all of this. So $50 will get you in the program. Will get you one of the first people having access to the program. After that, the price goes up to $75. That is where the price will stay until the program launches in January. After it launches in January, then it's going up to $99 for the foreseeable future. If you want to get access for you and a scholarship for someone else, that's going to come at the $90 level, which I actually really appreciate. It was my community members who asked if I could add this perk. They said, we not only want to get access for us, we also want to give someone who can't afford it access as well. I thought it was a great idea. So that option is available as well. We also have a signed copy of Actively Unwoke. We have private training with me. We have me investigating your school for you. And at the highest level, I will even hand knit you a customized shawl. I will pick out the yarns with you. I will pick out the colors. We will pick out the pattern together. I will knit you something beautiful that no one else has in the world. People who've been following me for a while know that I do not sell my knitting because I don't want knitting to be a job. But I will make this exception, and that is at the $1,000 level. And this is going to be going on for the next 41 days. And so if you would like to support the Schools Exposed program, head over to unwokearmy.com/parents. The link is pinned to the top of the chat on YouTube. It's also in the description below. Make a gift, whatever gift level you give at. I really appreciate it. I'm fully committed to this. I think that this is one of those ideas that I don't think this idea came from me. I'm going to be honest. I don't think it came from me. I think it came from something much more powerful than me. And I think that I think it was divine inspiration if there ever was one. I can see how this plays out. I can see how this changes the game. I'm really, really, really excited about it. And I hope you guys are too. I think it's going to be really, really great. So a couple other things before we get started with our live investigation. Number one, that's it. So if you have read my book, Actively Unwoke, or maybe you haven't read it yet, but there's still time, I am starting a free book club this weekend. This is a back to school book club. It is in 3 parts. We're going to meet every other week because there are 3 parts to the book. So every time we meet, we're going to discuss a different section of the book. And by the time the book club is done, you're going to be able to have your own game plan for how to fight back against the woke insanity in your life. So this is free to join. You don't have to be a member of my locals or Patreon or anything like that. The only thing I ask is that you show me a copy of your receipt for purchasing the book, or an alternative to that, if you have the book and you can't find your receipt, just take a photo of the book and upload that. That's fine too. But I just want to make sure people actually have the book and they're serious about it. So you can sign up for that at activelyunwoke.com/book club. Again, that starts on Saturday at 3 p.m. and that's going to be for part 1 of our book club. Now, there's plenty of time to read the book between now and then, or to listen to the audio version. The audio version is about 6.5 hours long. Remember, we're only doing the first part, so you don't even need to read the whole book. So you really still do have plenty of time. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Even if you haven't read it yet, even if you haven't gotten around to it, you're still welcome to come and hang out and participate in the conversation. And hopefully you get something out of it and it inspires you to crack it open and get started. So if you want to sign up for book club, activelyunwoke.com/book club. And I will be sending out more information to the people who have signed up for it very, very soon, within the next couple of days. And we will meet for our first private Zoom meeting on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to have a great chat and it's going to be really fun. And lastly, now, of course, you guys know on Tuesdays, this is not the last stream I do. This is but the first stream I do on Tuesdays, because Tuesdays at 9:30 are nothing remotely controversial day. And I promise you don't want to miss tonight's show, especially if you're one of those people who are like royal watchers. Like, I'm a total royal watcher, undercover. I don't really talk about it that much. I do watch a lot of royal content though, both contemporary royal content and like historical royal content. I really like the Tudor era and all that stuff. And so I've definitely been paying attention to what's going on with the royal family. I have a lot of questions. Joshua definitely has opinions on the queen too. I said to him yesterday, I said, we need to do a royal edition show of nothing remotely controversial. And he said, good, because that bitch had people killed. and so join us for nothing remotely controversial tonight at 9:30. I may or may not be wearing an outfit. I'm just letting you know. There may or may not be a whole outfit involved. Joshua has promised to have some sort of outfit as well. So we're going to do Royal Edition tonight. Bring your royal questions. We're going to have a great old time. All right, guys. Now, before we get into it, I wanted to address something. And I'm doing this mostly because I want to make a clip of this that I can share with people later. But I want to address something because I continue to get comments like this from conservatives a year and a half later. And I just want to address this before we jump into our investigation. Now, as you guys know, those of you who have been following me for a while, let me just make this bigger so that you guys can actually see it. Those of you who have been following me for a while know that I kind of became quote unquote quasi internet known for leaving the left in 2020. I left the left in publicly in February of 2021 or 2020, when I wrote an article about being a Democrat that went to a Trump rally and it went viral on the internet. And then I was like the conservative darling for like 15 minutes and I was trotted around to all the shows and all that stuff. And I publicly left the left. Now, what a lot of people missed the memo on is that after Joe Biden got into office, I kind of really started getting turned off by the right. And that happened despite rumor that has been created by people like Katie Herzog. That happened primarily because I was lobbying for the anti-critical race theory bill in New Hampshire in early 2021. New Hampshire was the very first state in the country to introduce a state level ban on the teaching of critical race theory with taxpayer funded money. I was very supportive of this bill. I did a lot of work to promote it. And what happened? But this bill was destroyed by the Republicans in New Hampshire, by the Republicans in the state Senate, and by our Rhino Republican governor, Chris Sununu. It was not destroyed by the Democrats. It was destroyed by the Republicans. Those of you who have been following me for a while know this. I talked about it extensively. The Democrats had no power to sabotage this bill. Chris Sununu sabotaged this bill. And now, and I can speak directly from personal experience on this, now I know emphatically that the state of New Hampshire is not even enforcing the watered down bill that ended up passing. They're not even enforcing it. I know that. I'm in communication with the state over this. They are refusing to enforce the watered down version of the bill that passed. There is literally a school district in New Hampshire who has on their website, on their effing website, that they are violating state law. It is on their website. And the state is refusing to investigate it. And do you know who is in charge of the office that's refusing to investigate it? Chris Sununu's Attorney General, John Formella. John Formella, in the beginning of 2021, was the crony that Chris Sununu used to water down the anti-CRT bill, to take the guts out of it, to ensure that critical race theory would still be taught in New Hampshire. So, in early 2021, I had a little falling out with the GOP because despite all their talk of being opposed to critical race theory in the classroom, when push came to shove, they not only did nothing to stop it, they actually inhibited and destroyed and watered down the bill at the state level that would have prevented it from being taught in the classroom. So I was pretty lit. And I communicated with the Republicans in the state, in the New Hampshire GOP, and what I got was, this is just the way it works. There's nothing we can do. They were such pussies about it, I can't even tell you. So I made the decision to leave and to join the Libertarians, because after all, it wasn't really Republicans that were fighting for the anti-CRT bill in New Hampshire. It was Free Staters. It was Libertarians. It was Liberty Republicans. The Libertarians that are basically registered as Republicans, but they're Libertarians. So the Republicans didn't even care about defeating it. And in fact, Chris Sununu came out later and said, Libertarians are not welcome in the New Hampshire GOP. And those Libertarians were the ones that were fighting back against critical race theory. So I left in April of 2021. I joined the Libertarians. I joined the Libertarian National Party, and I joined the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. And to this day, I still get angry notes from conservatives that I'm not parroting their conservative talking points. And I'm effing tired of it. I am really, really tired of it. Conservatives, I left your team in April of 2021. And I've watched your party go downhill ever since. Constant whining, constant complaining, politicians saying that they're going to do something and then never doing a goddamn thing. Your journalists are nothing more than propagandists. They lie to you constantly about what the woke left is doing. They lie to you constantly. And then people like me have to come in and unteach you the things that your influencers and your politicians teach you. I am effing tired of it. When I left the left, and I never expected that to be public. I never expected it to be a public thing. I sure as shit did not agree to be a conservative talking head for the rest of my life. I didn't agree to it because I was never a conservative. Never got me. I was an independent all throughout 2020. I became a Republican for about 15 minutes to troll Lauren Witzke, and I left in April of 2021. And yet every single day, almost, actually not every single day every more, it's more like 2-3 times a week now, but it used to be every single effing day, I would get comments like this. And I'm tired of it, conservatives. I'm tired of it. So let me read you something that is pretty standard for the types of comments I get. I'm not confused, but I get very annoyed when you deliberately attack conservatives. I'm a conservative and I understand all of this. No, very few conservatives that I've ever met actually understand the points that I'm making in that particular podcast, and specifically. You aren't doing yourself any favors by assuming that we are all so stupid that we can't see both sides of the media. Well, you could have fooled me because most of you can't see through the propaganda of your own tribe. Stop playing blame games. Just focus on delivering the information. Listen to James Lindsay more than you listen to socialists. He can sway and move people because he's not abusive to his audience. I seldom listen to you anymore. And as soon as you start with your blame game against people you are allegedly trying to help, I shut you down. I get notes like this several times a week from conservatives demanding to control my content, to control what I say, to control what I don't say. I am not interested in entertaining you, conservatives. I am no longer interested. You don't get to control my speech. You don't get to control my thoughts. I am not interested in you being in my audience if all you're going to do is cry and complain. I am trying to build an audience of doers. I am trying to build an audience of people who want to win. Do you know who I don't care to have in my audience? People who care more about their feelings than they do about winning. I had to put up with this bullshit. I've for long enough. For long enough. I am done. If there are any conservatives who are under any, and by the way, I welcome conservatives into my audience. But what I will not tolerate is the whining and complaining and the scolding when we could, in fact, be focused on things that matter. I hate to break it to you, conservatives, and I never thought in 2020 that I would have to say this to the audience that went, facts don't care about your feelings all the time. I don't care about your feelings, conservatives. I don't care about your feelings. I care that you show up and that you focus on things that matter and that you do the right thing. That's what I care about. I care about people that have principles. I care about people who are willing to have the courage of their convictions. Those people are welcomed into my audience. You know, a lot of content creators, what they do is they try to cast the broadest possible net for people in their audience. And in the process of it, I would contend that they actually end up attracting really awful people to their audiences. I've confronted some of those audiences. I don't want anything to do with them. I never wanted to be one of those people that attracted the largest possible audience. I made a decision a long time ago that I wanted to attract a niche audience who were actually doing things, who were interested in progress. But still, every day, I'm confronted with these comments of conservatives demanding to be able to control my speech. Do you guys not see anything ironic about this? Incognito says, worst one night stand ever. Yes, Incognito. My one night stand with the Republican Party was my worst one night stand ever. That is absolutely true. And I had some bad one night stands in college, I'll have you know. So, I know that not all conservatives are like this. I know that. I know I have conservatives in my audience that are not like this. And so, everyone is welcome here. But the point I want to make is that I'm not going to coddle your feelings. I'm not going to do it. We have too much important shit that we need to accomplish. I broke up with conservatives a year and a half ago. I thought we had gone our own separate ways. I thought we had moved on. You're welcome to stay if you want to be productive and fight back. You are not welcome to stay if all you're going to do is whine and distract. And this is another point I want to make about this is, listen, not everyone is cut out to be in this game. I'm not an entertainer. I'm not going to make content that's just here to entertain you. I will not do it. I will make content that I believe is important. I will make content that I believe is nuanced. I will make content that I believe is helpful to the larger picture. I will make the content that makes me happy and gets me excited and that I want to make. I am not here to make content to entertain you guys. Who I want in my audience are people who are focused on the right things, who are people that are committed to fucking winning, more committed to winning than they are to having their feels coddled. So, I hope we're all on the same page. Everyone who is committed to doing things that matter are welcome to stay. And I don't care what your politics are. I don't care if you're right. I don't even care if you're left, by the way. There are a lot of disaffected lefties. And quite frankly, I think it's more important that we appeal to the disaffected lefties because the disaffected lefties are actually the ones that do things. I don't care if you're a libertarian. I don't care if you don't know where you are and you're politically homeless. I do not care. If you have an issue with what is going on in culture, with the schools, if you are committed to fighting authoritarianism wherever you find it, even if it's on your own side, and there are a lot of authoritarians on your side, conservatives. Blake Masters, by the way, Blake Masters, did anyone hear this? Blake Masters, Republican Senate candidate in Arizona, said like 2 days ago that that conservatives should use the power of the government to be authoritarian. I'm not making this up. Let me show you guys real quick. Before we get started, I promise we're going to start. I promise we are. We're already half an hour into the stream. I promise we are. But let me just pull this up. I really want to hammer home this point. I want you to see this. Hang on. I'm pulling it up in another tab. 2 seconds. I got to go on to the Twitter account run by my intrepid volunteers. Okay. Hang on. Hang on. I got too many screens open. Too many screens. Let me get my little ticker banner down at the bottom. Okay. Let me show you this. It's from 2 days ago. Blake Masters at NatCon 3 says, "We on the right have to get comfortable using state power to achieve conservative ends. Said libertarianism doesn't work. Totalitarian leftism doesn't work either." This is literally one of the most popular conservative Senate candidates talking about embracing authoritarianism. And this isn't the first time Blake Masters has done shit like this, by the way. I've seen Jesse Kelly on the conservative right arguing for authoritarianism. And I would make the argument that Ron DeSantis in Florida has overstepped the bounds of what the government allows him to do a couple of times. I know that you guys like Ron DeSantis, or many of you like Ron DeSantis, but that's the truth. He has overstepped the Constitution on a couple of different occasions just because he could. And that leaves a bad taste in my mouth. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth when conservatives are literally arguing for authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is bad on the left, and that's where we spend most of our time. But authoritarianism on the right isn't any better. I will not work my ass off to fight one side, only to have it be replaced by authoritarians on the other side. I won't do it. Not going to happen. I don't care how you live your life. I don't care who you sleep with. I don't care what's between your legs. I don't care what your pronouns are. As long as you believe that we shouldn't be dictating to each other how to live our lives using force, as long as you believe that things have to be voluntary. If you believe in authoritarianism like this, you do not fit in with the audience that I want. I'm just going to be very blunt with you. If you believe in this, we're not a good fit for each other. Because eventually you're going to try to make me do something that I don't want to do, like follow your religion or worship your God or speak the talking points that you want me to speak or bend the knee and use the language that you want me to use. And I'm going to tell you to go fuck yourself. Because you don't get to tell me what to do and you shouldn't get to tell anyone else either. My fight against the woke left started because they wanted to dictate what words I could say, what thoughts I could think, how I had to behave in order to be accepted among them. I'm not for 1 second going to spend so much time fighting back against that, only to deal with the same thing on the other side. So no, I don't think one side is better. I think that both sides are preaching this. And I have no interest in it at all. So, again, if you would like to stay, you are welcome to stay. If it doesn't sound like you fit in, then at least we are on the same page with that. And you can go and find content creators that are going to be more your speed. And I'll wish you well, man. And I'll hope at some point that you realize that if you need to use force, if you need to use the force of the state to convince other people of your ideas, then your ideas are pretty shitty in the first place. If you cannot get people to voluntarily agree with your ideas, if you have to use the force of government to make them bend the knee to your will, then your ideas are pretty shitty in the first place and you should do better. Do better. But I ain't gonna pander into that bullshit here. Not gonna happen. All right, guys, that is my rant. Now let's get down to business and let's get the important work of the day done. We are doing a live investigation of the Chicago Public Schools. Please mount that like button for me if you are ready to find out what the Chicago Public Schools are teaching their kids. Now, what do we do when we're first starting an investigation of the schools? So what I mean when I say investigating the schools is basically I'm going to troll around their website and I'm going to see what kinds of documents they have on their website, policies they have on their website. I'm going to see what videos they have on their website. One, anything anything woke. And what I mean by woke is authoritarianism. That's my definition of woke. Now, some people would argue the definition of woke is something really convoluted and academic sounding related to social justice. I do not buy into that argument. I don't buy into it. I am not obligated to accept your definition. Authoritarianism is authoritarianism. And what I'm looking for are signs that they are integrating a far left progressive ideology into the curriculum without telling people what's going on. That's essentially what I'm looking for. I mean, I suppose it really could be a far right ideology as well. Like if I don't think that this would ever happen, to be really clear, because the teachers unions are basically controlled by the Democrats, like by an overwhelming majority. But on the off chance that we at some point found an alt right curriculum on a school website, I would have just as much of an issue with that. That's not good either. And there are actually schools that exist like that. They're mostly very white supremacist, like legitimately white supremacist. But we're not going down that road today, I'm suspecting, with the Chicago Public Schools. Yeah, I can see some folks in the chat have already found some stuff. So, guys, when I first start a school investigation, I find that the very easiest thing to do is, first off, I usually start at the district level, because anything that happens at the school district level is going to make its way into the schools under the district. Okay, so it's usually helpful to know what is the district doing that might encompass all the schools in the district. That's not to say that the schools themselves are doing different things, but oftentimes if you're finding district wide policy, that policy is going to be integrated into the specific schools within the district. They might also be doing other stuff too. We get to that later. So we are on the Chicago Public Schools website, and the very first thing I do is what? For folks in the chat, FOLX folks, of course. For folks in the chat, what is our very first step when we are starting a school investigation? To cut right to the chase, to cut through all the bullshit, because there's a lot of stuff on this website. It might be a little overwhelming to know where to go. Yes, sin for the win. We start with a search for equity. We search for equity. We search for equity. We search for equity. We search for equity. Excellent. I'm really glad you guys are picking that up. Okay, so we find their search function and we go equity. An equity video. Hang on. Did you guys see that? Okay, obviously we've got a lot of search. Oh, there's only 265 search results for equity on the Chicago Public Schools website. That seems a little low. What was that equity video thing, though? Did you guys see that? Look at this. Type in equity. What is this? What is this video about? Oh, it just gave us a whole other thing. Okay. Hang on. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull this into a separate window. I don't know if that's going to fix the, yeah, that's going to, okay, hang on. I'm starting to create my windows with tabs. Okay. So, uh, hang on. Okay, so look what happened when we searched equity video. We still got the Office of Equity, and definitely let's bring that up right now. But look at this. Chicago Public Schools launches groundbreaking curriculum equity initiative. Huh? You don't say. You don't say. 2019. So the Chicago Public Schools been doing equity for a minute. We know that now. Let's take a look. Let's take a look. Chicago Public Schools today announced a first of its kind curriculum equity initiative to ensure that students in every part of Chicago can benefit from high quality curriculum and instructional resources. While some teachers currently have access to instructional material, quality and access vary greatly among districts, with nearly half of the surveyed CPS instructors reporting their school does not have curriculum available in the subject they teach. Okay, so we need to be fair about this and we need to be nuanced about this. It is entirely possible that this specific thing that I just read, it might be okay. There's not necessarily anything wrong with this. Sometimes schools do equity in the way that they define it, in a way that is not problematic at all. And if it's just about making sure teachers have the resources they need and all schools are equal across the district, I don't think we should have a problem with that. That's not something to make a stink over. I do bet we're going to find more than this though. The curriculum equity initiative will create a standards aligned, culturally relevant library. What do we think when we hear culturally relevant teaching, culturally relevant programming? What do we think immediately? Resources, educators at all grade levels, blah, blah, blah. The 5-year vision. So we'll pull up that. All right, this actually doesn't seem like the worst thing I've ever seen. Now, again, I know that yep, exactly. Whenever we hear culturally relevant anything, we're thinking CRT. Exactly. Well done. Culturally relevant is what they changed critical race theory to when they were starting to get too much heat. But I don't see anything overtly. And guys, I'm going to be going, just so you guys know, I'm going to be going really quickly through this. I'm not necessarily going to read everything. I'm just going to go quickly through it. Our 5-year vision. Okay. See, this isn't bad. Academic progress, fine. Financial stability, fine. Integrity, fine. Collective impact, well, that's a little sketchy. I'm not sure what's going on there, but so equity, we will eliminate barriers to success and ensure equitable outcomes for our equitable opportunities for all students. Okay. If the Chicago Public Schools is really defining equity in this way, then it might be okay. If the Chicago Public Schools are really just implementing programs that are about making sure everyone has equal access to opportunity, then that's okay. Oftentimes, that is not what equity means. Sometimes they try to convince you that it means one thing when it really means another thing. I don't know if the Chicago Public Schools are doing that yet. Let's go back to their equity office. Why do they have an equity framework that looks like oh, what is it? Political compass test. They launched their Office of Equity in 2018. That means there's probably equity reports that we can find. Oh, Sin's got some information. Hang on. Let me see what Sin has. Sin has information on homeschooling. Let me pull that up. Why did you disappear? Oh, there it goes. Okay. Families have the option of homeschooling their children. Homeschooling is the education at home. I mean, that seems good. I like that they have options for homes. Yeah, like so I like this. I like this. It's good that they have options for homeschooling. Let's look at their equity framework though. Racial equity. Oh, targeted. Oh, fuck. Targeted universalism. We just saw targeted universalism somewhere else. Where do we see targeted universalism? This is like Seattle. I think it was Seattle, wasn't it? I think it was Seattle. So this is like the third school district I've seen recently, like within the last month, that had something about targeted universalism. Now, targeted universalism is not about access to opportunities. Targeted universalism is about equality of outcomes. So the Chicago public schools are trying to be real effing sneaky. Let's see. It looks like they have a video. I think we watched this last time with Chicago. I think this might be the othering and belong. What? Okay, let's watch this video, and then I have questions about that link. I just need to set up the tab to put the sound on. Let's watch this video. Oh. Yeah, I think we watched this before. We'll watch it again for people who didn't see it last time.
What is the most effective and sustainable policy response to problems in our society? Universal approaches are widely used in order to package policies for broad appeal. Universal policies, such as Social Security and minimum wage laws, provide the same benefits or minimum protections to everyone, regardless of status or group membership. But by treating everyone the same,
I agree, Andrew. It looks like the same video, but just in case people haven't seen it,
group-based discrimination and may actually deepen inequality between groups rather than reduce it. And by providing benefits or protections to everyone.
Okay, so just this is the same video that we saw in Chicago, in Seattle, rather. So that leads me to believe that there is some company, there's some organization that is selling this targeted universal approach to school districts around the country. I want to know what that organization is, okay? Because if we can figure out what that organization is, we can figure out what school districts they're working in, and then we've got an entire web of school districts that are perhaps unwittingly integrating woke bullshit into their curriculum. Now, what it just says is if we give the same opportunity to everyone, that in itself can create disparities. All right. This tells me that this is not as good as it may have initially looked.
Everyone, resources that could be targeted to groups worse off instead flow to those who are better off. In contrast to universalism, targeted approaches are commonly used. Targeted policies provide benefits or protections based on group membership or status. SNAP, the food stamp program, conditions benefits on income level. The Americans with Disabilities Act requires public accessibility for disabled groups, and affirmative action focuses on historically disadvantaged groups. Targeted approaches are vulnerable to the critique that they unfairly favor constituent groups over the public good by directing resources to marginalized groups who are already subjected to unfair stereotypes. But universal and targeted approaches are false choices. There is a third way: targeted universalism. Targeted universalism
It's just as
means
Orwellian
setting
the second
universal
time.
goals that can be achieved through targeted approaches. This approach targets the varying needs of each group while reminding us that we are all part of the same social fabric. This can be accomplished by following these 5 steps. First, set a universal goal. For example, 100% proficiency in 8th grade math. Second, measure how the overall population fares relative to the universal goal. In this example, we might discover that only 80% of 8th graders are proficient in 8th grade math.
It's going to be much less than
measure
that.
the performance of
It's going to be
population
around
segments
26%.
relative to the universal goal. So although 80% of all 8th graders are proficient, we might find that only 70% of Latinos are proficient. Fourth, understand how structures and other factors support or impede groups' progress toward the universal goal. For our Latino students, classroom instruction materials and lessons designed for English speakers may impede learning, including math proficiency. Finally, implement targeted strategies so that each group can achieve the universal goal based upon their needs and circumstances. This may take the form of ESL-specific math tutoring for our Latino students, while another group may require a completely different strategy to achieve the same universal goal. Targeted universalism rejects a blanket universal, which may be indifferent to the reality that different groups are situated differently relative to the institutions and resources of society. By aspiring towards shared universal goals, targeted universalism empowers targeted strategies capable of achieving those goals, while moving us beyond concerns over disparities alone and toward our highest aspirations for all.
All right. So Sin says Berkeley. Oh, Haas Institute at berkeley.ed. Of course it's effing fucking UC Berkeley. Of course it's UC Berkeley. Sin says so targeted universalism is the new term for equity. I think it might be Sin. What I suspect is happening is this was probably a term that was coined by the Haas Institute at Berkeley, and that's something we should probably look up at some point. And now they're shilling it out to the uber woke urban school districts in the country. Again, we found this on the Seattle Public Schools website like last week. So it's the exact same video that we watched last week. I just wanted to replay it so that people who weren't there last week could watch it. Bot is also working her way through a 70 plus page document of their equity framework, which we'll get to in a second. They have a bunch of acknowledgments that might be groups from this. So I wanted to pause on this and we'll take a look at this. Actually, here it is right here. It just opened another window. Hang on. Let me just show you guys this. The CPS equity framework. These are the types of things we're looking for when we're doing investigations, the PDFs, the documents. We're also looking oftentimes for videos, particularly videos with kids, because those are especially useful. But like, okay, so we'll go through this in a second, but I just want to get down to page 67. Bot said there's going to be acknowledgments. Glossary. So we're going to know how they define all. Okay, so here are the organizations that they're working with. How amazing of the Chicago Public Schools to put together a list of the organizations that they're working with for us. Thank you for Chicago Public Schools. But I want to show you guys this because I'm going to get something else in a second. Hang on. It's on the floor. Hang on. So when you're looking at PDFs and documents like this is actually one of the most helpful resources that you can find. Let me show you guys this. I got something. I got a teacher planner. Just in case I wanna plan for being a social justice educator. I haven't really looked deep into this yet, but this is a legit teacher planner. I ordered it. It came in. I now have a teacher planner that has all social justice holidays. You can see right up at the top, it's got social justice holidays. Oop. It's got social justice holidays, just in case the teachers want to remind the kids of all the social justice holidays. But the point I want to make is in the back, they have pages and pages and pages and pages of resources. I have a treasure trove of resources in the back of the book. So you always got to look in the back of the book. You always got to look at the acknowledgments because this is where we're going to find the uber woke stuff, okay? And I'm going to do a thing on this teacher planner at some point when I get a chance to really digest it. I haven't done that yet. Lisa says, I'm in Illinois. I don't mind paying for math, reading, and history, but I hate spending money on wokeness. Lisa, I hate to break it to you, but wokeness is integrated into every single part of the curriculum in Illinois. It is mandated by your state board of education. It is integrated into all teacher training. So you might think that you're just paying for math, reading, and history. You are not. You are not. If you're in Illinois, you are absolutely paying for wokeness integrated into every single part of the curriculum. And it's not a fixable problem. Illinois is probably one of the worst states in the country when it comes to this sort of thing. And we might end up proving that on this stream. All right, let's go back up though. Let's look at their equity framework. Let me see how this is showing up on the screen. I'm not even displaying it on the screen. Here we go. All right, let's look into their equity framework and see what's what. September 2018. We're going to have to do this fast. Liberatory thinking. Holy shit. In their equity framework, the very first thing is liberatory thinking. So okay. We've been watching socialism videos, as the conservative at the top of the show was kind enough to point out. I've been watching a little too much socialism for conservative tastes, and they would rather be entertained. But does anyone remember what we learned about the definitions for liberation and abolition in the past week of watching socialism content? How are they defining it? How are they defining it? That's communism, ladies and gentlemen. Anytime you see the word liberation, anytime you see the word abolition, or any derivation thereof, that is legit communism in the eyes of the people who wrote this. They know what they're doing. They might tell you it's another definition. It is not another definition. We got the definition that they're using for this by watching their own conference when they were speaking among friends. So liberatory thinking, we already know that this is not good. Inclusive partnerships, resource equity, fair policies and systems. And look at the nice targeted universalism, targeted universalism, targeted universalism in the background. I think we've actually seen her on Happy Hour before. I'm pretty sure. I don't care about their letters. Bro. Why do they have an Orwell eye in their equity report? For real? Why do they have an Orwell eye? It's like, I keep telling you guys that these people do things literally right out in the open. They have a literal effing Orwell eye. The CPS equity framework is a product of extensive and ongoing dialogue with students, parents, caregivers, educators, numerous schools, blah, 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 blah. We hold three essential questions at its core. Even with our best efforts and intentions, why do differences in achievement, educational experiences, and outcomes persist for the same student group? Each individual has a role in the system. What can each of us do to advance equity in the Chicago public schools? How can we increase transparency? Though none of this is bad. None of this is bad. What I have an issue with is the Orwell eye. Yeah, the state is literally watching you. It's almost too on the nose, isn't it? And definitely, let's make Orwell fiction again, for real. To achieve equitable outcomes. So they're telling us that this is not about equality of... See, they tried to make it seem earlier like this was about equality of opportunity. It is not about equality of opportunity. Equity is always and universally, for these people, about equality of outcome. We've already found proof of that. To achieve equitable outcomes, we must have shared language, tools, and accountability for supporting our students and communities. So they're going to be focusing on changing the language, on putting policies in place where equity is going to be the only outcome that's possible, and systems of accountability. Anytime you see accountability, you need to think struggle session. Focused on our students most impacted by inequity. That means they're going to be making decisions based on race. The CPS equity framework will guide our school district towards providing every youth with a great education that is grounded in the CPS vision. How? Because racial and educational equity require processes, initiatives, and outcomes. The equity framework is designed to serve as a starting point to create meaningful and impactful change in our district. Oh, this is basically a land blessing. Look at this. This is so on the nose for a land blessing. When we are working in equitable ways and making progress on equity, we acknowledge and account for our past and current inequities, and we provide all people the infrastructure needed to thrive. We prioritize people of color, told ya, making decisions based on race, and other groups in the decision-making process who have been historically marginalized or are negatively impacted by recent events related to racial injustice. We believe everyone benefits from a more just, equitable system. That fucking Orwell eye again! And this time they have it with the equity curve. Equity work requires. Hang on, I have to screenshot this. This is crazy. This is literally Orwell. Curiosity, urgency, resiliency, vulnerability, and empathy. No, that's not what we're seeing here. Okay, so they have a race and equity working group. One of the goals of the race and equity working group was to develop a framework, blah, blah, blah. They're just talking about their process. I'm going really fast through this, guys, obviously. Equity means, a more in-depth definition. CPS defines equity as championing the individual cultures, identities, talents, abilities, and language interests of each student by ensuring they receive opportunities and resources. So, see, again, they're trying to they're mixing up their language. In this, they're saying this is just about making sure everyone has opportunities, but that's not what they set up here. What they said to achieve equitable outcomes. So they're mixing up their own language. Prioritizing racial equity because racial and ethnic minorities have been historically prohibited and structurally excluded from educational opportunities. Provide just and fair inclusion in creating conditions in which everyone can participate and prosper. Every child has what they need. I don't actually have a problem with that. Cultivating unique gifts, whatever, fine. We recognize the immediate pressing need for racial equity to transform the experiences of young people within Chicago Public Schools. Chicago Public Schools prioritizes racial equity because of its predictive power across intersecting identities of gender. See, look at this. Okay, hang on. First off, what these people do all the time is they never provide any evidence to back up the claims that they're making about historical inequities. And when we did find evidence in Vermont, so in Vermont they were arguing that black and brown students were like suspended at a disproportionately higher rate. But then once we actually looked at their own data, we found out that wasn't true. That maybe it had been true at one time several years ago, but it was no longer true, and they were still pretending that they hadn't solved the problem. So they never provide any data to back up this claim. But I want you to see what they're doing. They say and they do this because they know people aren't reading these documents. I'm gonna love page 26. Oh, great. I love that you guys are reading ahead. Hang on. Let me just put this in the chat. If you guys want to read ahead, again, I'm going really fast here, so all hands on deck. All hands on deck. We recognize the immediate and pressing need for racial equity, but watch what they do now. So they're prioritizing racial equity because of its predictive power across intersecting identities. So that's intersectionality of gender and identity, socioeconomic group, and health status. At CPS, the Office of Equity believes all staff must take an anti-racist stance. Where does that star go? Where's the star? Probably like I'm guessing that this is going to lead to the glossary where they're going to define all these terms. So they're mandating that all staff do anti-racism, which we know that anti-racism is quite literally a Marxist concept that advocates for present-day discrimination to make up for past discrimination. It's not anti-racist at all, it's just racist. Which means disrupting the racism, othering, colorism, and the uneven playing field for our students and staff face at the classroom, school, and district levels. We must not perpetuate the historic inequities faced by our students, blah, blah, blah. Racial equity requires processes, initiatives, and outcomes that eliminate all forms of racial oppression and co-creates conditions that enable the most impacted by structural inequity to reach their full potential, centering their agency. Racial equity is a process. We include our partners in affinity. Affinity means segregation. And accomplice across difference. That I think means ally. With the most impacted by structural inequity, blah, blah, blah. All right. I feel like we're getting. Oh, the CPS 5-year vision made concrete community commitments to advance Black and Latinx male students, which are reflective of targeted universalism and racial equity guiding principles. A racial equity lens asks the question, how will we shift in practice? How will this shift in practice affect the lived experiences of Black, Brown, Indigenous, and all students of color? If the answer is it will negatively affect them or contribute to accumulated burden, we need to redesign the policy or practice. I wonder, does anyone know if Chicago Public Schools considers Asians to be white? That's what I want to know. Do the Chicago Public Schools consider Asians to be students of color, or do they consider them to be white? Okay, what is this Othering and Belonging Institute? I think I saw this on the other page. Hang on. What is this Othering and Belonging Institute? It's taking a minute to load. We'll go back to it. I do want to know what it is, though. We just learned about targeted universalism. I don't care. Look at that fucking eye again. Why did these people make the Orwell eye their mascot? This is the creepiest thing I have ever seen in my life. Okay, maybe not in my life, but like it's really creepy. This is like, and there it is again. This is like how I have my little Orwell TV that's on the cover of my book, like over everything, but I'm doing it ironically. Okay. Page 26. Someone told me, oh, there it is again. The equity lens. Are they trying to, it's like, they're trying to say the equity lens is Orwellian or something? Mitigates opportunity bad. The energy is bad, Sin. It is bad. Like, okay, for those who don't know, hang on, I'm going to show this. Like, hang on, I'm just loading in another window. For those who don't know, that is literally the cover of my book. I have the Orwell eye on the cover of my book. Okay? That's not that different from that. It is shocking every time I see it. Historical lens engages in conversations about others' limited abilities. Okay, I hate this. Why are they assuming other people have limited abilities? That sounds kind of racist to me. Prioritizes voices of the loudest and powerful, allocates resources based on potential highest impact. Oh, they're saying that this is the white way of doing things. They're saying that people who are what? That doesn't make sense. The equity lens engages in conversations that create fairness and liberation. There's that word again. Communism prioritizes least served and underrepresented groups. So they're basically saying that you either prioritize white people or you prioritize non-white people. Allocates resources based on greatest need of schools and student groups. Creates opportunity by eliminating barriers that impact access. But we already know that this is not about see, they're literally creates barriers by setting criteria to access opportunity. They're trying to make it seem They're trying to make it seem like everyone who disagrees with them is just wants to limit access to opportunities for non-white people. That's not what it is. Because again, we already know that their criteria for equity is not equality of opportunity, it's equality of outcome. How are they defining liberatory thinking? A definition. Thank you. Sorry, hang on. Oh, I water down the wrong throat, or coffee down the wrong throat, rather. Hang on. Sorry, I just coughed into the mic. My bad. Not wrong throat, the wrong pipe, or whatever. You guys know. All right, let's see. Liberatory thinking is the reimagining of one's assumptions and beliefs about others and their capabilities by interrupting internal beliefs that undermine productive relationships and actions. No, it's not. That is such bullshit. Yeah, you're going to start rumors. I definitely have two necks. Some people say I have no neck. Those are especially nice people. Liberatory thinking goes beyond simply changing mindsets to create concrete opportunities for others to experience liberation. They still haven't defined the word. The opportunities provide cover for and centers underrepresented and marginalized people. It pushes people to interrogate their own multiple identities, that's intersectionality, in relation to others, to think about the consequences of their action, especially for students of critical need. That means Black students. Which, by the way, just to be really clear, just in case anyone wants to clip something out of context, I am not opposed to making sure Black students have everything that they need. I, in fact, think that we should make it possible for every underserved Black student and brown student and any student really to be able to go to whatever school they want. Wouldn't it be great if the poor Black kids got to make the choice to go to the same school as the rich white kids? I think that would be pretty awesome. I don't know why anti-racist people aren't in favor of making it possible for poor Black kids to go to the same schools as rich white kids. Why do they want to oppress the poor Black kids? I think just making it really easy to let them choose to go to the same schools as the rich white kids if they want to. They can go to other schools too if they want to. That's cool. But I think that is what our priority should be. Now, what I just did there, for people who might not be catching on, is I just spoke leftist. Basically, so these people are never in favor of school choice, and I don't think school choice is the end all be all. I don't think it's like the solution that's going to fix everything. In fact, I don't think school choice is going to fix anything, but I do think school choice provides opportunity to get people used to the idea of looking around for schools and being like, and not being forced to go to a particular school. But if you want to really make the left think about like the school choice issue, just say to them, why don't you want poor Black kids to be able to go to the same schools rich white kids go to? That seems a little racist to me. Why do you want poor Black kids to be stuck in these awful schools? Why can't we just let them go to the same schools the rich white kids go to? Try using that as an argument at some point and see what happens. The gears are going to start turning if you do. Sometimes it's okay to speak leftist. Liberatory thinking lifts up and institutionalizes culturally relevant and sustaining opportunities and celebrates students' identities. They still haven't defined it. Liberatory thinking pushes us to think about what we want for students as a result of equity. They still haven't defined it. Liberation? Defined it. That's not a word either. Liberatory thinking requires working towards a common vision, getting closer, for equity and racial justice. Liberatory thinking appreciates and honors the differences among people, but includes but is not limited to race, ethnicity, gender identity, sexual orientation, blah blah blah, all the things. Oh, the liberatory thinking tool is available. What is this liberatory thinking tool? Oh God, look at all these things. Liberatory thinking tool. Download. Oh my God. Is this like a self-evalu is this like a self-imposed struggle session? This looks like a self-imposed struggle session. I can communicate my understanding of my identities and intersectionality. I understand how my social identities affect the work I do. I can name current racial inequities in my community. I am able to this tool is evaluating how well they've done the work. I bet you every single teacher in the Chicago Public Schools has to fill this out. That doesn't seem like a good idea to me. I am ready to sit next to someone I disagree with okay. I'm ready to sit next to someone I disagree with rather than across from them. How does anyone actually think that the people who wrote this document would ever sit next to a Trump supporter? I don't. I'm ready to ally across affinity to resolve challenges that will lead to growth and opportunity. I'm willing to put the problem in front of us rather than sliding it towards you. That's their way of telling white people to do the work. I'm ready to remain curious, listen, ask questions, and accept I may not fully understand the issue. I bet every white teacher in the Chicago public schools has to do this. I am open to owning my part. I recognize the urgency of the work I do. I know many social and gender identities. I know of many social and gender identities of other people, their cultural influences, and how they intersect. I have knowledge of the history, ideology, and continued presence of systemic inequities and how they reinforce each other. I understand how different forms of oppression operate on interpersonal, cultural, institutional, and structural levels. This is a self administered struggle session. It really is. I engage in difficult conversations on racial equity, internal bias, systemic inequities, and system redesign. Ding, 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 ding. System redesign. I haven't heard this term before. All right. Who can name for me right now? Pop quiz. Who can name for me the 4 goals of the woke left? What are the 4 goals of the woke left? If you can only name one, just chat in one. That's fine. But I want to know what are the 4 goals of the woke left that I keep coming back to? This is a quiz. If you are taking the quiz, please mount that like button when you're done. And I want to thank everyone on Odyssey, Rockfin, and Rumble for joining me today. And on Gitter as well. Hey, Gitter. MAGA Allen in the middle. I do see your chats and I appreciate them. Thank you. Let's see. Oh, we've got some. Okay. Yes, Jan. Destroy capitalism is one of them. Yes, Phil. Power. Come on, guys. The 4 goals of the woke left. Yes, Brooklyn Way. Destabilize for the purpose of gaining power to usher in Marxism. Exactly. James Jones. Establish their communist utopia. Okay. We're going to go over this as many times as we need to until you guys can repeat it back to me. The 4 goals of the woke left are gain as much power as possible, to destabilize the system, to attack capitalism, to usher in their little Marxist utopia. Everything the woke left does is about gaining as much power as possible, to destabilize the system so they can attack capitalism, so they can usher in their little Marxist utopia. It is always one and or multiple of those goals. If you think it's about skin color, no. It is not about skin color. It is not about fixing racism. It's not about any of those things. Gain as much power as possible to destabilize the system by attacking capitalism so they can usher in their little Marxist utopia. So, well done to Reagan. Reagan got destabilized the system, attacked capitalism, usher in their Marxist utopia. Well done. So when I see under actions, I engage in difficult conversations on racial equity, internal bias, systemic inequities, and or system redesign. When they say system redesign, which of the four priorities are they talking about? When they say system redesign in this document, are they talking about gaining as much power as possible? Are they talking about destabilizing the system? Are they talking about attacking capitalism? Or are they talking about ushering in their Marxist utopia? Which ones are they hitting? Exactly! They're destabilizing the system! They're destabilizing the system. When they're talking about a system redesign, means they don't like the old system. They want to put their system in there. Their system doesn't like capitalism. Everything comes from those. Yeah, you actually could make the argument, Ziegel, that it could be all of the above. You actually could make that argument for sure. Phil makes that argument as well. You could make that argument. So this is the type of stuff we're looking for. I seek out opportunities for continual self-development, including self-education, self-reflection, and personal change. I am equipped to respond to biased comments, address inequitable group dynamics, and create culturally inclusive partnerships. I create, critically analyze, implement, or advocate for organizational norms, policies, and practices that are equitable and inclusive. I work collaboratively with others to foster social justice. That's definitely a little struggle sessiony. A little bit. Oh, why isn't that working? Where did that I wanted to go to that where is that again, what was it called? 5-year vision. The universalist thing. Targeted universalism. Anyway, I guess maybe we'll find it later. Let's see. CPS framework. Oh, no, that's not where we were. We'll just open up a new document. Fine. Oh, no, that's not. Oh, geez. Okay. Nope, that's not what I was looking for. Not that. Not that. Where did our equity framework go? God, it's so bad. Targeted universalism. Okay, I want to see if we can get to this Othering and Belonging Institute. Oh, it just reloads to here. Okay, never mind. That was a dead end. Where did I get to that equity framework document? There it is. Okay, found it. Found it. Took a second, but we got back there. So you're seeing what you're seeing, guys, is that oftentimes when you get onto these websites, it is like a rabbit hole. And you get a lot of information very, very quickly, which is part of the reason why we need to teach people how to do this, because it can get really confusing when you don't know what you're looking at. All right, so we know they're doing this liberatory thinking thing, which is really socialism at best. So it made it look like earlier when they were talking about resource equity, it made it seem like they were just trying to make sure that every student in the Chicago public schools had access to like the same curriculum, or that teachers all had access to the same resources. We now know, based on their own document, that that's not the case. The goal of resource equity is to create equitable student experiences in learning ready environments. Resource equity means consistently prioritizing and allocating people, time, and money to align with levels of need and opportunity. So we know that is a little fuzzy. Leading for equity. Okay, so here is an example about how they're applying this equity framework. Use liberatory thinking, self-reflection, and shared power in planning, pedagogy, and building curriculum. What book was mentioned yesterday on the webinar about activism in the Chicago public schools? Does everyone remember? What book did they mention yesterday specifically that the Chicago that activists within the Chicago public schools have pushed? Does anyone remember? I will, Brooklyn Way. Let's put it on the list. It had to do with pedagogy. They're saying here, use liberatory thinking, self-reflected and shared power in planning, pedagogy, and building curriculum. Pedagogy of the Oppressed. Stevie M wins the prize. Yes, they did. They mentioned Palafieri's Pedagogy of the Oppressed. That ain't good. Tripods and gate surveys, engaging students in anonymously reviewing pedagogy to identify teacher cultural competencies. Oh, look at this shit. So I haven't read Pedagogy of the Oppressed completely. I've read like portions of it, but I rely on other people to tell me what these things are. In this case, I relied on James Lindsay to tell me what it was. And one of the things that it teaches is that students should be driving the educational environment. So students should basically be teaching teachers. What does it say? Engaging students in anonymously reviewing pedagogy to identify teacher cultural competencies. The Chicago Public Schools is quite literally telling us that they are having students anonymously assess their teachers to tell them how the teachers are doing. That's implementing Pedagogy of the Oppressed under liberatory thinking. Facilitate student reviews of curriculum at the end of a unit to determine if it is equitable and representative for them. Yeah, they should be calling them Scholars Bot. All right, another one. Access and engagement during COVID-19. Reflective discussion acknowledges issues of inequity within the crisis and engage students in supportive discussions. All right, that's not really that big of a deal. That's just some examples. And then we go into references. Okay. So we can probably spend a lot of time on that. Look at their definitions. Look at they're teaching you. Sometimes the definitions are worth looking at because they teach you how to speak woke. And you need to know how to speak woke. In fact, this is a great guide. This is a great guide. So basically, I want to thank the Chicago Public Schools for putting together a nice comprehensive list of words that I can use as inspiration when I design the Schools Exposed program to say, here's what the woke think these definitions are. Here is what the actual definition is. This is resoundingly useful. See, you guys, you can't get angry at this stuff. Yes, okay, we can get angry that this is happening and that we're in this situation, but try to use everything they give us to our greatest advantage. Try to use the things that they're giving us to be able to teach people about what they're doing. Getting angry at it doesn't help anyone. Oh, look at this. Future state. The equitable future, especially with a focus on race relations, you hope to foster through your change idea and other strategies. Gatekeeper, holy shit. Gender identity, a person's individual and subjective sense of their own gender. Gender identity is this on a spectrum and are not just masculine and feminine, and that comes out of Carthage College. Liberation, maybe they'll define liberation here. A state of being in which one is free from all forms of oppression. Liberation can be both personal and communal, with a deep connection to one's self, body, mind, and spirit. We believe collective liberation is possible when we work at the individual, interpersonal, and institutional level. What do we think collective liberation means? Does anyone want to take a guess? Anytime they're using the word collective, we probably want to pay attention to that, don't we? Race is a powerful social idea that gives people different access to opportunity. Holy shit. Yes, correct. Correct. Collective means communism or socialism. Let's just use the two interchangeably. Marxism, sure. The Borg, yes. Look at this, how they're defining race. A powerful social idea that gives people different access to opportunities and resources. Race is not biological, but it is real. Well, I think that anyone who has had, like, a baby might be surprised to learn that race is not biological. Has anyone, okay, maybe I'm just ignorant. Has anyone ever had a baby whose race is completely distinct from the race of the mother and the father? I'm just saying, like, if a black man and a white woman got together, would they produce like a like Hindu child? And I'm like referring to like Indian. Would they produce like someone that looks like they're from Southeast India, like the Southeast Asia? Would two black parents produce an Asian child that look like they're from Asian parents? I mean, maybe if they had that in their ancestry, but it would be like a little weird for like, yeah, exactly. That would only happen if the woman was cheating with an Indian man. The only reality in which a white woman is going to birth an Indian child is if she had had sex with an Indian man. If she had had sex with a black man, they would not produce an Indian child or an Asian child. That just, like, to say that race isn't biological? Yeah, exactly. This would be like Steve Martin being born a poor black child. No, tired woman. See, you're buying, this is the problem, tired woman. You're buying into their definitions. What they are saying here, let me explain what they're actually saying. And in fact, they do say it. They say a political construction created to concentrate power with white people and legitimize dominance over non-white people. What they are suggesting in their definition is that racism was created, or race itself was created when white people brought black people to Virginia in 1619, which, by the way, was not the first time that slaves were imported to the United States, but they ignore what happened in Florida about 100 years before that. They say that race was created when white people brought black people to America for the first time, and that is when white people were created because they weren't considered white before that, and that white people created the concept of race in order to oppress black people. That's what their argument is. So no, it's not a social construct. Race is not a social construct. There we have their whole equity team. Oh, look, they have pronouns. Isn't that nice? So, guys, anytime we come across staff names, we pay attention to those when we're doing school investigations because it might be helpful later. And then we have their partners, and all this is really helpful. So there's a lot of helpful information just in this one PDF. That's really good. Now, what I want to know, I want to go to their YouTube channel. Let's see what's going on at the Chicago Public Schools YouTube channel, because one of the number one things that we can find anywhere when we're investigating the schools, videos of students. And they do put this stuff out there. We need videos of students. And the reason we go for videos of students is because it makes a particularly compelling argument to normies, people who don't know about this stuff, to hear it coming out of students' mouths directly. Oh, look. Oh, look. Bot is right. What's at the very top of the Chicago Public Schools YouTube channel? Skyline Curriculum Equity Initiative Launch. Right at the top of their YouTube channel. We're going to watch that in a second. I'm just going to have a quick scroll though. Let's see. Now you can find all sorts of interesting things on YouTube channels for schools. You always want to make sure we're looking at the district YouTube page right now. You always want to make sure you know if their diversity office has a separate YouTube page. They might in this case because the Chicago Public Schools actually has a really big diversity office. So they might have a whole separate YouTube channel. We're going to look at that in a second. But for right now, let's start here. You're going to find all sorts of stuff on these YouTube pages. Most of the time, it just has nothing to do with anything that we care about. Let's see. Mayor Lori Lightfoot. I'm going to go. Oh, no, they disabled it. Those fuckers. Those fuckers. You know what these assholes did? Hang on. So usually when you're looking at a YouTube page, you have the ability to search within the channel. These fuckers disabled my ability to search within their channel. What are they hiding? That tells me there's something going on. What do they have for playlists? School reopening. Doesn't look like anything there that I'm interested in. Shorts, whatever. Budget hearing. Lots of vaccination stuff. Guys, as a reminder, the Chicago Public Schools were the ones where the teachers union president protested going back to in-person learning because she said it was just too dangerous to go back to in-person learning in the midst of a pandemic. She did it while she was on vacation in Puerto Rico. That's real. That was covered in the news. Not making that up. You're going to get a lot of board meetings in these YouTube channels, which can be important if we need to go back and find a board meeting later. All right, there's lots of stuff. That I'm not sure is relevant to us right now. They got Obama on there. Huh. I wish I could. Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and we're going to watch this here video. And it's 16 minutes long. And I want to see what it says. And while this video is playing, I'm going to do some searching over on the side to try to find some other stuff. But let me just, I want to hear about their equity initiative. We always need to watch the videos. And so someone said something in what, like in my feed somewhere, and I feel like Brooklyn Way, it might have been you. So we've been watching a lot of long form content lately. I think it's deeply important that we watch long form content from start to finish because even though it can be boring, every single time we watch long form content from start to finish, we get at least one nugget. We get at least one thing, and it's usually smack dab in the middle of the content that takes us into the land of Crazy Town. And so sometimes it requires a lot of patience. Sometimes you have to watch content that you don't want to watch, that you might consider to be mind-numbingly boring. But, as Brooklyn Way says, it is a necessary evil. The reason that we're able to uncover what's going on in the schools is that we are having the patience to watch their content because these people will tell us what they're doing if we look for it. The problem is they get away with this stuff because there is way more content on the internet than any one person can watch. And let's just be frank, not a lot of people want to sit here for hours on end and watch this type of content. So it takes time to do it. We need to have the patience to do it. And I frankly don't care if people want to watch it or not. If we don't watch it, then we are allowing them to get away with what they're getting away with. And this is how they are winning. They're doing it all right out in the open. They're telling us exactly what they're doing. But when it comes to sitting down and watching the content and listening to it, really listening to it, listening to try to understand rather than listening to get gotcha points or to talk about how gross it is, you need to actually open your ears and listen. And I understand that this is not everyone's favorite thing to do. It's not my favorite thing to do. But sadly, conservative journalists have failed to do their fucking jobs. They are failing to do the basic thing that they should be doing, which is to keep an eye on all of this and to actually report what's going on. So, someone has to pick up the slack if we actually want to win. And we can't complain. We just have to hunker down and do it. So, and Brooklyn Way also says, and to learn more about how to filter that back through ideation leading to an actionable plan, please pick up a copy of Carlin's book, Actively Unwoke, and register for book club, which begins on September 17th. Thank you, Brooklyn Way, for that. You can find out more information about book club at activelyunwoke.com/book club. All right, let's watch this equity video, and I'm going to do some other stuff in the background.
For over 200 years, Chicago's neighborhoods have welcomed people from all walks of life, including numerous countries, cultures, and creeds, giving them a place to call their own, a place to celebrate their identities, put down roots, and raise their families. Today, people from across the country and around the world continue to find that one part of our city to make their home.
So many people.
You guys aren't going to believe what I just found.
So many places around the world. Our city is and continues to be a city of many neighborhoods, each often defined by unique and discrete identities and cultures. And while this adds to the broad culture and diversity of our city, it also creates boundaries and disparities that echo between our 77 community areas and into our schools. Oftentimes, these disparities are most evident in the varying resources available between our schools, including the quality and cultural relevance of their curriculum.
Chicago is justifiably proud to be home to some of the best public schools in the United States. But we are also home to schools that don't have the curricular resources necessary to maximize their potential. Right now, individual schools are responsible for purchasing or developing their own curriculum. High-quality curricular resources that guide instruction and facilitate learning are essential to the profession of teaching. But more often than not, the burden falls on individual teachers to identify and assemble their own resources. As you can imagine, when teachers are forced to find their own materials, often turning to the internet, the quality of those resources begin to vary widely.
I have witnessed firsthand the many inequities our students experience in accessing the high-quality curricular resources that are critically important to academic progress. As students transition from elementary to high school throughout the city, or even transfer schools within their own communities, these inequities became painfully clear to our families and to me. Students who experience low rigor learning environments and curricular resources that are not grade level appropriate are ill prepared for post-secondary opportunities and often experience a false sense of achievement. Yet, students who access rigorous standards-aligned content requiring high cognitive demand thrive.
All right. This is a propaganda video. Do you guys want to see the real stuff? Check this out. Let me show you what and I know I just lectured about how we need to watch the whole thing, but I don't think we're going to get anything from that. And I just want to, because it's basically they produced a puff piece is what happened. Now, that's not to say we shouldn't watch the whole thing. We should. I just want to show you. here are some videos that I found by searching for a couple of things. I searched for Chicago Public Schools equity, I searched for Chicago Public Schools diversity, and I searched for Chicago Public Schools race. Let's just look and see what I found. A conversation on equity with Chicago Public Schools final. This is on Chicago and Beyond, Chicago Beyond. I don't know what that organization is, but it is a conversation on equity in our schools with the public schools CEO. A budget that focuses on equity, Chicago Public Schools. A moral imperative, educational equity in Chicago Public Schools. Parents demand safety and equity from the Chicago Public Schools. Chicago Public Schools Curriculum Equity Initiative. Chicago Public Schools, we're actually going to watch this video in a second. Chicago Public Schools, this is from a TV station in Chicago, says equity, student support at the center of a $9.3 billion budget. No, this is not correct. Critical race theory has nothing to do with race. It only has to do with power. This is not correct. We need to move beyond conservative talking points on this. They are not teaching anyone to hate white people. They are teaching people to hate capitalism. The number one enemy of critical race theory is capitalism. No, they're not. That is not correct. And I do not allow this on my channel, because the minute that I allow this on my channel is the minute I start attracting a whole bunch of racist bullshit. Critical race theory is not about race. It is about power. And the greatest enemy of critical race theory is capitalism. It is not white people. It is capitalism. That's what they're going after. I found the ACAB curriculum. Oh, good. Oh, in the 8th grade curriculum, they're saying Chicago police torture people. Bot, can you send that to me, please? I appreciate it. So we know that they're budgeting based on equity, which is not good. Let's see. Parent Zerlina Smith on accountability, equity in the Chicago Public Schools. This is put up by the Chicago Teachers Union. I'm wondering what's going on there. A quiet revolution is happening in the Chicago Public Schools. We're embarking on an ambitious 5-year plan on our historic academic progress and set the course for the future. And the last one I pulled up, and again, this was like a less than 5-minute search. Ask with Forum. This is the Harvard Graduate School of Education. Chicago Public Schools, a transformation story. Fun times, fun times. Let me just see. Did you send me that curriculum perchance? I think you did. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. All right, let's take a look at what Bot sent us. Oh, this is good, Bot. Oh, shit. Okay, hang on. This is a Google Doc. Scope and sequence for 8th grade social science. Bot, do we have other curriculum, or is this the only one? And by the way, guys, curriculum stuff. Okay, so the Chicago Public Schools has told us that they embarked on this in order to make sure single student and teacher within the Chicago Public Schools had the same curriculum. Okay, so we can make the assumption that if we're finding curriculum with Chicago Public Schools on it, this curriculum is in every single school within the city of Chicago, because that's why we start at the district level. And the district told us they invested a metric F ton of money on making sure everyone had the same curriculum. Now, Bot has found us the layouts for every grade. This is an extremely valuable thing to find. If you can find curriculum plans on their websites, and you usually can, not all the time, but usually, especially for urban schools, this is an extremely valuable thing to find. What you're looking for on these websites is you're looking for things like planning documents, strategic plans, reports. The videos are the sexy stuff. They're the stuff that I can do on a stream and kind of be a little entertaining. But really, most of what you're going to find is going to be like documents, PDFs that probably no one has ever read, but they're all on their website. Let's take a look. 8th grade curriculum in Chicago. Forging the ideals of American democracy. But where am I looking for the police one? Just to speed things up a little bit. Because I can go through and read all of this, but I don't have all day. And neither do you guys. So, exploring rights, responsibilities, and power in the community. Oh, isn't that interesting? Remember how I said about like 15 minutes ago that critical race theory is not about race, it's about power? And they're actually teaching as part of the 8th grade curriculum, exploring rights, responsibilities, and power in the community. Under reparations. Okay, well, let me know if I get there. Hey, Cider. Let's see. Choosing to participate. Oh, here we go. Reparations. The 8th grade unit is one of 2 educational units developed for teachers and students in the Chicago Public Schools in response to the reparations package agreed to by the City of Chicago in 2015. The unit is designed to teach basic information about the torture of persons conducted under Commander John Berg of the Chicago Police Department and the legacy of this experience. What the what? The unit presents this scandal within the context of the role of the police in the criminal justice system. The police are tasked with maintaining public safety, investigating crime, and arresting suspects accused of crime, and doing the task impartially. People arrested by the police and charged with crimes are guaranteed certain fundamental rights applied with due process under law of the Constitution. Torture is illegal, one would hope, because it violates both the mandate of the police and the rights of the citizens. Now, I don't know what this scandal is. Does anyone know what this scandal is? And by the way, just so we're clear, I'm not the biggest fan of the police. I'm just not. I think it's a really corrupt profession. I'm sorry. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I think 8th grade social studies curriculum should be focused on teaching people why the police are bad. I can dislike the police in general and still not believe that that should be an idea that should be included in 8th grade social studies curriculum. This unit also explores the specific racial context of the scandal. Burge and almost all the officers involved were white. Almost all of those who were tortured in police custody were Black. Evidence and stories about these abuses, however, were ignored or discounted for many years outside of the African American community. Activists in Chicago's Black community worked for many years to uncover the scandal, to curtail the torture program. What the hell was this? To seek justice for its victims, and to gain public acknowledgement of the systemic nature of these abuses, eventually winning an unprecedented series of state and local government responses. The unit concludes with an assessment in which students write an op-ed providing the perspective of a youth on Chicago on a strategy to prevent future problems like the torture scandal. Students must recommend an action that community members can take, as well as an action that police and city can take to build positive relations to prevent future problems. This is literally teaching activism. If anyone happens to have access to these super secret password protected worksheets, please get in touch. We will protect your identity. We just want to see what you're teaching. That's it. We can FOIA this shit if we want. Growth and resistance in the American West. Oh, good. Where they're teaching that white people were oppressing settlers in the West. Okay. So basically look, power, oppression, and promise in the American economy. Again, Marxism. This unit examines power, oppression, and promise in America's economy, focusing specifically on the industrial age and today. Throughout this unit, students will analyze the relationship between American workers and business interests then and now. Students will explore how seismic shifts in key industries in the industrial age transformed the post-Civil War economy and gave rise to an era of robber barons, consolidation, and wealth disparity. Students will examine the factors that impacted workers of various backgrounds. Workers, socialism, as the result of the industrialization of America and growing wealth disparity. Students will discover how workers, socialism, organized to improve their conditions, how progressives fought for government and social reform. Why are they teaching in the social studies curriculum how progressives back in the day fought for reform for the workers? If I were to say to you that there was an 8th grade social studies curriculum funded by the taxpayer that taught how progressives fought for social reform to benefit the workers, what does that make you think about? I'm going to say it again. Progressives fought for social reform to benefit the worker. What does that make you think about? Any guesses? Any guesses? Cider! Communism! Why are they teaching people about progressive activism and social reform for the worker? Or socialism. Or socialism. Again, the goal of the woke left is attain as much power as possible so they can destabilize the system, so they can attack capitalism, so they can usher in their little Marxist utopia. You have always got to assume that everything they're doing, everything, but particularly in the schools, you have to look at it. They're talking about it, looking at it through an equity lens with the Orwellian eye. We're looking at it through a Marxism lens, where every single time we're looking at what the woke left is doing, we have to start with the assumption that they are in some way trying to destabilize the system so they can attack capitalism, so they can usher in Marxism. Okay? We have to start with those base assumptions. Gain as much power as possible to destabilize the system, to attack capitalism, to usher in a Marxist utopia. So, if we start with our socialism lens, our Marxism lens, what we then need to do is reverse engineer it. So, if I hear something about an 8th grade social studies curriculum that is teaching how progressives fought for government and social reform, I'm interchanging the word progressive with the word socialist, and I am exchanging the word reform, social reform, with destabilizing the system, and I'm starting with the end conclusion that their goal is to attack capitalism to usher in Marxism. How best to attack capitalism? By teaching the next generation that capitalism is unjust, that capitalism is upholding whiteness. Because when they use the term whiteness, they're talking about who owns the power structure. They're talking about capitalism. That's what they're doing with this. You should go on Timcast and show them all this? Yo, that's never going to happen. Never going to happen. They don't really care. And I don't really care to be involved in any of that because I find internet content to be insane. But I appreciate it. I would rather just attract people to this channel who want to talk about this stuff. But remember, you always need to start with that base assumption. Because once you start with that very base assumption, everything starts to become really clear after that. You have to put yourself in their shoes. You have to know that Marxism is the end goal. That's where they're going. And so every single thing that they implement is only and specifically to support that eventual goal. These people are strategic. They're not like the right, who are constantly infighting and creating nonsense and bickering. These people are strategic. They've been doing this for a really long time. This is how they're winning. This is how they took over the schools in the first place. And so you always have to start with the assumption that they're working towards a goal, and that is what the goal is. Oh, look! Holy shit! Contradictions of democracy. The goal of the woke left is gain as much power as possible to destabilize the system, to attack capitalism, to usher in a Marxist utopia. If your goal is to usher in a Marxist utopia, it seems to me to be a pretty great idea to teach social studies to 8th graders, specifically about the contradictions of democracy. Now, there are critiques. We can make it democracy. We can call it the rule of the majority, the tyranny of the majority. There are valid critiques to make a democracy, but remember, that's not what they're doing. Oh, look at this. A survey of social resistance. Social resistance means progressive activism. Again, pretty much every unit within the 8th grade social studies curriculum. This is insane. In this unit, students will explore and compare U.S. social movements to understand how the types of movements start, the people who make them possible, the tactics activists employ, and what people do every day as a part of the movement. Why are they teaching this in 8th grade social studies? This is pure activism. They are training 8th graders to be activists and calling it equity. Students begin by discussing the terms social movements and resistance efforts. Students will learn that these movements involve types of activisms and occur in a variety of places. They will discover that a movement can also cause a backlash. Students will be introduced to a special graphic organizer for analyzing and comparing social movements. Becoming a world power, influences and resistance. Power, 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 power. That's it. So that's just great, Chicago. That's just great. The entire 8th grade social studies curriculum is built 100% on activism. Great. But I'm sure we have their other curriculum too. Guys, I think that's about where I'm going to end for today, because I've been going 2 hours. Okay, so we got through a lot today. We sussed out the Chicago Public Schools Equity Office. We found their 67-page document that is their equity framework. We sussed out that they're using Orwell all over this shit. Hang on, let's just, for those who just joined, look at this equity framework. This is the most insane thing I've ever seen. They're literally using the Orwell eye all over things. Hang on, there it is. This is their there it is, the equity curve with the Orwell eye. We know that there are a metric ton of videos on YouTube about the equity plan in the Chicago Public Schools. We know that the Chicago Public Schools invested in a $9.3 billion with a B, $9.3 billion budget that is partially driven by equity. We know that the Chicago Public Schools is lying to people when they say that equity is about equality of opportunity instead of equality of outcome, and we are basing that on their own document, which is contradictory in places. They basically let the mask slip, where they started off by saying it was about equality of opportunity, and then in other places in the document, they admitted that it was about equality of outcome, which is Marxism. We found their 8th grader bot found their 8th grade social studies curriculum, which is all about training activists. So we got through a lot today. Good progress, guys. Good work. Bot, I DM'd you a page from 10th grade. I appreciate that, bot. I will look for it in a little bit. I found targeted universalism on the UC Berkeley website. Sin, where did you post that? Did you post a link somewhere? I'll bring it up. I definitely want to look into this targeted universalism thing, because here is the thing. Like, we have now seen this targeted universalism thing show up at 2 other places, or at least 1 other place. And that worries me. The whole idea of this being a brand, targeted. Oh, Sin, you'll put it on the Discord. Thank you. I appreciate it. So it seems to me that there's some sort of organization out there, and it seems to be coming out of the University of California at Berkeley, that is pushing this idea of targeted universalism as a code word for equity. We need to make sure we know that so we understand the language. But we got a lot done today, guys. I appreciate it now. The reason I'm wrapping up a little early by our standards, Brent is saying, you're just being lazy, get another 6 hours in you. Well, I don't, Brent, because the thing of it is I need to take a little break and I need to get some dinner. And I'm coming back in 2.5 hours. We did our work. We ate our vegetables. We got a lot done today with the Chicago Public Schools. We're probably going to continue this tomorrow, just so you guys know. So if you feel like you're not ready to be done with this yet, come back tomorrow. We'll do more. But like I'm doing it, and I'm doing a short stream today because in 2.5 hours at 9:30 tonight, I will be live with Joshua for Nothing Remotely Controversial Royal Edition. There may or may not be outfits involved. I promise you, you're going to want to come back for it tonight. I have so many questions about the future of the monarchy. You can wear your crown if you want to. We should all wear crowns tonight. And join us at 9:30 p.m. where we'll have a good old time. Again, we did our work. We ate our vegetables. Nothing remotely controversial is dessert. Or it's like the cheese on top of the broccoli. It's the fun stuff when we get to let our hair down and be silly and be gregarious and have fun and do psychic things and predict what's going to happen. But guys, that is all I have for this one. Please mount the like button on the way out the door. And of course, please make sure if you appreciate this type of thing, I want to teach parents how to do this. I went through very quickly today parts of the Chicago Public School website. I want to teach parents how to do this stuff so that they can keep an eye on their own schools. So they can do this type of research on their own school district, on their own schools, the schools that they're sending their kids to, so they know exactly what the schools are teaching their kids. I'm planning on launching a training program in January to that effect. If you would like to support that and get early access to the program where I will break everything down for you in videos, I will explain the language, I will explain why we do certain things, I will explain where to find documents, I will do monthly live sessions to help us work through problems as a community. I will connect parents with other parents in different states that are doing the same thing so that they can communicate and collude. And that is all part of the Schools Exposed program. You can help me out by funding my Indiegogo campaign at unwokearmy.com/parents. It will redirect you right to that. You can follow the link at the top of the chat or in the description below. Any gift is welcome, anywhere from $5 all the way up to $1,000 to get that custom hand knit shawl. Lots of perks are still available. We're going to be fundraising for this for a little bit, but I'm really grateful and appreciative to have already met my funding goal. And now I'm trying to fundraise for a marketing budget, to be honest, because if I'm going to get 10,000 parents through this program, I got to reach the normies, guys. Normies ain't watching channels like mine. It's not happening. I got to go to where the normies are. I got to reach out to them in normie ways to help them understand what's going on. And what I'm basically fundraising for now that I've met my minimum goal is I'd like a sweet marketing budget to be able to do that. I will also be funding FOIA requests with the proceeds of this program. We're going to do a lot of good with this. And I think it's time to help people help themselves. That's really what I want to do at the end of the day. If you know how to do all this stuff already, you don't need to sign up for this, okay? But if you feel overwhelmed, if you don't know where to turn, I can help you out. I know how to build training programs. I know how to find all this information on websites, and I know how to speak their language. I want to download all the information in my brain to you and create more people doing this. So you can find out more about the program over on unwokearmy.com/parents. Head over to the Indiegogo campaign, watch the video, you can learn more. And of course, make sure you join me tonight for Nothing Remotely Controversial Royal Edition at 9:30. Guys, that's all I have for right now. Take care, and we'll see you in a little bit. Bye!